Ice Cube just delivered a reality check that hit harder than a Shaq dunk, the $5 million offer everyone thought was up for grabs. It was never meant for Angel Reese.
Ice Cube. Because Ice Cube has come out and given everybody some brutal truth. Sorry, Angel Reese, the $5 million offer was only for Caitlin Clark.
Personal, but it was business. That's all it is, business. Y'all gonna make it personal though.
When TMZ caught the Big Three founder at LAX, his response was ice cold and brutally honest. The sponsors didn't back Angel the same way they backed Caitlin Clark. That's not shade, that's business. And now we're watching the fallout happen in real time. Angel Reese thought she was the chosen one, the next face of women's basketball, the marketing goldmine that brands would fight over. The Bayou Barbie had the swagger, the social media following, and that championship glow from LSU. She had everything that looked like star power on paper, the followers, the engagement, the viral moments that kept her name trending. But somewhere between the hype and the reality, the numbers started telling a different story, the same story Ice Cube just confirmed to the world.
So Ice Cube, you see the headline from TMZ. Sorry, Angel Reese, the $5 million offer was only for Caitlin Clark.
Picture this, Angel probably had vision boards with her face on billboards, endorsement deals lined up in her head, maybe even started planning how she'd spend that Big Three money. She was riding high off that LSU championship, thinking the WNBA was just going to be another stage for her to dominate. Not just on the court, but in the business world. The brands would come calling, the offers would pour in, and she'd be set for life. That's the dream every college athlete has when they go pro. But dreams and reality don't always match up, especially when cold hard business gets involved. What's really eating at Angel isn't just the money she didn't get, it's what that money represented: validation, proof that she belonged in the same conversation as Clark. Proof that all those viral moments, all that social media buzz, all that personality translated into something concrete, something valuable, something worth $5 million. But when push came to shove and real dollars were on the table, the conversation got real quiet. Ice Cube made it clear that this wasn't about personal feelings or basketball politics. This was about return on investment, and the math just didn't add up. He looked at the numbers, looked at the projections, looked at what Angel could actually deliver versus what she promised, and the answer was crystal clear: not worth the risk. Think about how that has to feel. You're Angel Reese, you've convinced yourself that you're in the same league as Caitlin Clark, that you deserve the same opportunities, the same money, the same respect. Then someone like Ice Cube, who's been in the entertainment and sports business for decades, tells the world that you're not even close, that the sponsors don't see you the same way, that your value isn't what you thought it was. The brutal truth is that while Angel was building her brand on social media drama and viral moments, Caitlin Clark was building something else entirely. She was building actual value, the kind that makes executives pull out their checkbooks without hesitation, the kind that fills arenas, crashes websites, and turns casual fans into obsessed followers. That's the difference between influence and impact. That's the difference between looking successful and actually being successful. Angel was playing the social media game, thinking that followers and likes translated directly into dollars. She was creating content, stirring up controversy, keeping her name in the headlines. And it worked, to a degree. She stayed relevant, she stayed visible, she stayed in the conversation. But when it came time to convert that visibility into real business value, something was missing. The substance wasn't there. The guaranteed return wasn't there. Clark, on the other hand, was quietly building something that executives could measure and bank on. Every game she played brought in viewers, every appearance she made sold tickets. Every jersey with her name flew off the shelves. She wasn't just famous, she was profitable. And in the business world, profitable always wins over popular. But here's where it gets really messy. This revelation didn't happen in some boardroom behind closed doors. It happened in the most public way possible, with Ice Cube spelling it out for everyone to hear. TMZ cameras rolling, millions of people watching, no way to spin it or soften the blow. The sponsors who were supposed to be lining up for Angel, they were never really there, at least not with the same enthusiasm, the same confidence, the same willingness to write those massive checks. Imagine being Angel and watching that interview, watching Ice Cube casually destroy everything you thought you knew about your own value, watching him explain to the world why you're not worth the same investment as your biggest rival. That's not just a business rejection, that's a public humiliation. that's the kind of moment that changes how you see yourself and how the world sees you. Now Angel's facing a harsh reality that no amount of Instagram followers can cushion, the hype that carried her into the WNBA, the narrative that painted her as Clark's equal, the assumption that brands would throw money at anyone with a pulse and a following, it's all crumbling. And the most uncomfortable part? She's finding out the same time as everyone else, through a TMZ interview at an airport. The timing couldn't be worse either. Just as Caitlin Clark was literally taking over Chicago, Angel's supposed city, Angel was dealing with the public confirmation that she wasn't worth the same investment. It's like watching someone get their heart broken in front of the entire internet. Except in this case, the internet has opinions, and those opinions are loud. Ice Cube didn't sugarcoat anything, he looked straight into that camera and explained why business is business. The sponsors didn't see the same potential, the same draw, the same guarantee of success. They saw a risk where they saw certainty with Clark. That's not a character assassination, that's a market analysis, but it stings just the same. What makes this even more brutal is that Angel probably believed her own hype. She probably thought the offers were coming, that the deals were just a matter of time, that her name carried the same weight as Clark's in those corporate boardrooms, finding out that it doesn't, finding out that the game was rigged from the start, that has to hit different. The question now isn't whether Angel can bounce back from this, the question is whether she even understands what she's bouncing back from, because this isn't just about one missed opportunity or one executive's opinion, this is about the fundamental difference between being famous and being valuable, between having followers and having influence, between making noise and making money. And the clock is ticking. Every day that passes without Angel addressing this, without her pivoting her strategy, without her finding a way to separate her value from Clark's shadow, is another day that potential sponsors and partners are taking notes. They're watching how she handles adversity, how she responds to criticism, how she builds her brand when the easy narratives fall apart. The sports world is unforgiving when it comes to missed opportunities. Ask any athlete who was supposed to be the next big thing but never quite got there. The margin for error gets smaller, the patience gets thinner, and the second chances become harder to come by. Angel's at that crossroads right now, and which direction she chooses will determine whether this becomes a footnote in her success story or the beginning of her cautionary tale. What's really wild is that this whole situation could have been avoided, if Angel had focused on building her own unique brand instead of constantly positioning herself in relation to Clark, if she had let her game speak louder than her social media presence, if she had understood that controversy isn't the same as marketability, she might be in a completely different position right now. But hindsight is 20/20, and the reality is what it is. Angel Reese is learning the hard way that the sports business world doesn't care about your feelings, your potential, or your social media metrics. It cares about results, it cares about proven value, it cares about guaranteed returns, and right now, in the eyes of the people writing the checks, she's not providing any of those things. The most damaging part of Ice Cube's comments wasn't what he said about Angel, it was what he didn't need to say about Clark. The confidence in his voice when he talked about Clark's offer, the certainty that she was worth the investment, the assumption that everyone already understood why she got the deal. That's the kind of universal recognition that Angel thought she had but clearly doesn't. Here's what's really happening behind the scenes. Executives are having conversations about Angel that she's probably not even aware of. They're looking at engagement rates that don't translate to sales. They're analyzing social media metrics that look impressive on paper but don't move the needle where it counts. They're questioning whether the drama and controversy that made her famous is actually hurting her marketability. And those conversations are happening in real time, with real consequences. Deals that were in development are getting second looks, partnerships that seemed like sure things are suddenly on hold. Not because Angel did anything specifically wrong, but because the market is telling them that she's not the safe bet they thought she was. The hardest part about all of this is that Angel probably still doesn't fully understand what went wrong. She's probably looking at her numbers, her achievements, her profile, and wondering why the business world doesn't see what she sees, but that's the gap between self-perception and market reality. That's the difference between being a star in your own mind and being a star in the minds of the people who matter. What Angel needs to understand is that this isn't the end of her story. This is just the end of one chapter. The chapter where she could coast on potential and hype and social media buzz. The next chapter requires something different. It requires actual results, consistent performance, and a brand that stands on its own without needing Clark as a reference point. But that's going to require some serious soul-searching and strategy adjustment. It's going to require Angel to be honest about where she is versus where she thought she was. It's going to require her to build something real instead of something that just looks good on the surface. And most importantly, it's going to require her to stop measuring herself against Caitlin Clark and start measuring herself against her own potential. The clock is ticking, and the sports world is watching. Angel Reese can either use this as a wake-up call that transforms her career, or she can let it become the moment when her star started to fade. The choice is hers, but the consequences are real, and they're happening whether she's ready or not.